I had it enough that I was able to.
Maybe I should switch cameras.
What's that?
Maybe I should switch cameras.
Oh, no, you're good. Yeah, how about on here?
Yes, you should.
Oh,
Yes, I do.
Good evening, it is 6 p.m. and we call our April 12th, 2022 regular town council. Thank everybody for being here and ask if you will stand and join me. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty. We have our open public forum, and tonight we have two speakers that have signed up. Stephen Booker, from Main Street.
Very short. I really signed up because this morning Rotary announced it's at 6:30 meeting tonight, so I thought somebody should show up. I will say that I worked with Hunt and Brady, and they've done a phenomenal job for Marriott. And we almost selected the degree for the town offices, so we shouldn't have quite the police experience that HJ had here. So I'm just saying both those companies are great.
Thank you very much. And since Brady sent a message to you, I see you. This we value public input. We will let her speak whenever she Next on our agenda this evening, we have our time lanes and public hearings. This evening, we have a public hearing, which takes, I will close our Windermere Town Council meeting at 6:03 p.m. and we'll open a public hearing at 6:03. And this is for ordinance number 2022-02. This is a second reading of the regulation of commercial activities parks. The ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Windermere, regulating commercial activities on property owned by the town, amending Article 1 of Chapter 8 to add a new section 8-1 to regulate commercial activities prohibited on town-owned property. Exceptions providing for severability, codification, and an effective date. At this point, anyone who wishes to speak on this item will not have to be signed in. Open public hearing for this item, ordinance number 23. Anyone who wishes to speak? Seeing no one, we will close our public hearing at 6:04 p.m. and reopen our April 12th, 2020 regularly scheduled town council meeting at 6:04 p.m. Council, in front of you, the ordinance number 2022 that's a lot to use. Regulating commercial activities in parks. Questions, discussion, or motion to approve?
Mayor, did you read the title?
Did I read it? I'm sorry.
The title?
The title ordinance number 2022-02, regulating commercial activities in parks. That work?
Yes, you read the first paragraph.
You're supposed to read the whole title of the ordinance.
Yeah, you
I
did.
can read it for you. Oh, you did?
Yeah, you did.
Sorry, I missed that.
I believe I did, right?
I missed it.
I read everything on the agenda, so let me check.
You did, the title's on the agenda.
Okay. And if you see it, it's something else. None. Ordinance number 2022.
Motion to approve ordinance number 2022-02.
Okay, so the motion to approve by Councilperson Diane and second by Councilperson. Seeing none, will be reported with Councilperson Rose. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And ordinance number 2022-02, regulating commercial activities in parks, carried unanimously. Said the title enough time, we got it. Council, in front of you for our consent agenda, we have council workshop meeting minutes for March 3rd, 2022, as well as town council meeting minutes for March 8th, 2022. Council can approve these items as one, or you may make any amendments or changes, and then we'll approve them.
Mayor, I motion to approve one comment on page 20 of the current minutes. It shows me voting for agenda item twice, and Councilperson David didn't vote. I hate to say that I stole the.
I think we got the data confused.
Yeah.
Councilperson, is that on the March 3rd, 2020?
It's on March 8th, page 20 of the agenda.
You know what item it is?
It is the consent item for 11 Main Street, Z21-10, actually Walker variance. On the bottom, just where the voting is.
Council, any additional changes? March 3rd. None. All right, we'll look for, so basically, we'll look for a second on Councilperson David's motion.
I'll second.
Second, any further questions, concerns? Seeing none, we can go to the Councilperson. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Next up, under new business, is our contracts and agreements. First up is our RFQ number 2022-01A. This is design build services for the Healthy West Orange Pavilion. Council, you have the attachments, selection of players coming in, some pre-builders. We have any presentation on that?
It's not necessary unless council wants to request it again. For the contract that we have with the Rotary LLC and with Healthy West Orange, they're required to follow our protocols for advertising for the design build. They did follow the requirements that were requested and that we typically follow. In addition to that, they had John Fitzgibbon on the selection committee. There were 2 responses, and as you heard from Stephen Withers, their recommendation is to go with the pre-builders.
Thank you, sir. Also here tonight is Andy Brooks and of course Brad Buston, and CHA. So if there's any questions for those gentlemen, they are also available. Council, for a motion to approve. Motion to approve. Motion to approve. Councilperson Martin. Second. Second, Councilperson. Any questions, concerns, or comments, Council?
I did have a conversation with Jonathan this morning to get his thoughts on this, and he's very confident in the choice. So, as am I.
Thank you,
Just a quick question for McCree, licensed GC or an A&E firm or?
Mr. Rose.
Creates general contract.
And vote council person.
Aye.
And RFQ. Landlord services for helping us control the bill, passes unanimous. Council, and thank you very much for Rotary and all of those, who helped make this process move forward.
We also have 2 public workshops and 45% plan approval and 100% plan approval. So you'll be seeing a lot of ZHA, McCree, Florida Carlos, and Byron and Norma. So yeah, this is the
Yeah, so
last,
it'll be a nice-
just one of the first steps.
It'll be a nice process, and I think together we've all gotten much better at this, these opportunities to get public input and make sure that at the end of the project, everybody's super happy with what the end result. Everybody knows a lot of work, with some patience, and like we're headed down the right roads. Next up is item 2, is RFQ 2022. Building permit inspection services. Council, attachments to the selection committee recommends. Council. Motion to approve. For second, second, Councilperson Babbitt. Council, any discussion on this? Councilperson Williams. Aye. Council. Yes, the partner. Next up is RFQ 2022-02. This is on-call community services. Council, again, you have the selection committee's recommendations. Recommendation is for the grant looking for a motion to approve. Motion to approve, Councilperson Williams. Second, Councilperson Williams. Council, any further concerns, comments, or questions? Seeing none. Aye.
Aye.
RFQ 2022-02 on-call. Next up is RFQ 2022-03. This is for general legal representation, selection committee recommends. Council.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved. Councilperson Babbitt. Second. Council, any comments, concerns, or questions? Seeing none. Councilperson Murphy. Aye. 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 And our 2022-03 selection committee recommending Ray Robinson passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Ray Robinson with us, well, and Brad and everyone. So
Thank you.
I know you guys have worked with the team. Expertise that you have. Other items for consideration. Oh, no, I'm getting too. I thought we were going too fast. Yeah, I knew it. Financial. This is for the purchase of a migrating compactor CB119 for a cat skid steer for $12,724.55. That is available if anyone has some questions.
Motion to approve.
Second. Second, Councilperson. Council, any questions, comments, or concerns?
Yeah, question, what is it actually down the dirt road bumping?
No, back when I presented the roadway maintenance program to you all several months ago when I first arrived, one of the things that we were missing for the maintaining the roads is a roller. So what you have to do once you scrape the roads is you need to roll that material back in and compact it. so that it stays better. It can also help us with pitching our roadways and keeping everything compact. That's why when you look over here at Forest, it stays so nicely during the storms, because we were able to roll that in. So we put this in the budget last year because that's the piece of equipment we're missing. We're going with a vibratory roller attachment to the skid steer because that means we don't have an extra piece of equipment to maintain, and we can attach that to an existing piece of equipment. But it's definitely a necessary piece to the whole roadway maintenance. You have to compact that in.
So,
The skid steer is a small piece of equipment, Bobcat.
oh, that's holding.
Right, right. So normal skid steers have got bucket attachments on the front. This roller replaces that bucket with the vibratory roller.
So how did Fourth Street get that?
We had to rent a roller at $1,000 or more for 3 to 5 days.
So you basically tested.
Yes.
Get those at rental.
I have to remember that.
The one you rented was pretty small, as I recall.
It was, yes, and my team would have preferred a bigger size roller, and that put the rollers themselves, pieces of kind of out of our range, but this worked out perfectly. Kat brought it and let us test it out, and the guys in John Fitzgibbon really liked it.
This roller actually has.
Yep.
It's a good solution.
Further questions? Let's see, I think we have a motion and a second, is there questions answered? Let's go ahead. Go ahead, Counselor. Aye. Next up is item I, dispensing the Windermere Recreation Center playground at a cost of $26,000. Sorry, $688. Staff recommends approval from Rose Fence.
Mr. Mayor and Council,
I'm sorry if I could interrupt. Late this afternoon, a couple of the fence companies called me back because they're seeing such escalating costs. So what we're actually going to ask you to do this evening is allow us to negotiate with the lowest quote in a not to exceed amount of $28,000 for the fencing.
So on our bids, we have a time period which they're, and have, did we exceed that time frame?
We did, sir, because this is going into a park, and I only had to get 3 quotes from 3 different vendors. I then had to work with Parks and Recreation Committee to be sure they would be okay with this. By the time we got all of that done and got on this agenda, those timeframes had exceeded, so they're within their rights to do it, yes.
Yeah, so are we good 90 days or what are we?
well, I actually, pardon me?
6 weeks.
6 weeks, 5 to 6 weeks for delivery.
Yeah, because I know even 90 days can be a challenge. You've got to get in front of a couple committees and then get to council. So.
I do apologize.
So, it's one of those cost escalations. So, I was just looking at how we did the process. Maybe that's something. Yes. All right, council. So let's see. Yes.
Is there a reason why we would go back and vendors to get rebids and then accept and not to exceed amount?
That's what I'm doing. So I've gone back to all 3 of them to make sure that they update and give us the right numbers. So tonight, if you give me a not to exceed amount, we'll go with the low quote and we'll be able to move forward, not have to bring it back to you, which would then again delay us and put us in danger of up pricing.
Yeah, and one of the one of the issues here is that playground equipment is installed and there's no fence. Practice use. It's got to keep lots.
Make a motion to,
Thank you, Councilperson Rose and Councilperson Lee. Any further questions for staff on this? Seeing none, we'll begin voting. Councilperson. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Betsy, with not to exceed $28,000. Thank you, Council, for that. Couple, let's do liaisons. Yeah, because we're at the end of the agenda. Yeah.
She must miss the meeting.
There's stuff in that traffic. Okay, so just, Brandon, Day 35 Oakville Street. Just two topics. So the first one is regarding the pavilion. I wanted to find out if they are going to have the committee selected for design and construction, if they're going to have an arborist on board. Because we've been kind of doing that with most of our projects moving forward. And then to make sure that tree board gets the opportunity to be one of the reviewing committees for their recommendations, whatever the impacts they need regarding that project. That's that one. I texted these up to myself. It's been a long day. The other one is regarding the 4 proposed alternatives for changing our setbacks regarding the lake ordinance. So on one point, I would like to say that I think that that's, I guess, Wade Trims and staff's recommendations that are going to be brought before DRB and the council. I do think that we need to get the lake consultant's opinion on that, and I'm curious for the towns that we compared with. I know there was County of Orange, Winter Park, Orlando, Alderman Springs. Which of those jurisdictions actually have lakes that are in their communities that would be an outstanding waterway, because some of them I think don't, and therefore aren't kind of comparable in terms of looking at what our waterways have to offer with what we're saying that other communities don't have. So, and then what the timeline would be, would that come back for a 2-reading ordinance if we do decide, there's looking at other alternatives to change, and I might have missed something, someone's in here. And to make sure that, the lake consultant has a chance to have their input prior to it going to DRB, that way DRB is fully in the loop. And not, that information from the lake consultant coming after DRB's recommendation and then prior to.
Staff, we have any additional input from our lake consultant on this, maybe
I can. Brad, for this, plan. So related to the lake consultant, we did have to look at this early on in this discussion. And so we do have the recommendation, which is to maintain the 50-foot setback. So we do have that recommendation from the lakes consultant, which is part of, when we bring this forward to the DRB, that'll be part of the package as well, which I can tell you, they already have seen that also with the variances that have been before them. So we do have that input to maintain the 50-foot setback from the lakes consultant.
And I'm assuming that hasn't changed to our knowledge at all.
And also just in terms of the 4 options that are there, those are just ideas. They're not, as I said at the end, there could be any other ways you may want to address it, just some ideas to go forward to the discussion.
So I mean, Randy, I think that what we're looking at here is, thank you for your comments. I think what we're looking at here is a pretty solidly process in terms of, and I agree, everything that we possibly have. So DRB can look at that as well, where they discuss it, maybe recommendations. Council, and from there, there's a process.
And then just one final, we found questions on outstanding Florida waters. That is correct. The Butler chain of lakes is an outstanding Florida water.
Yes.
And the other jurisdictions, with the exception of Orange County, because of course they're on the other side of the lake, they do not have outstanding Florida water lakes within the jurisdictions. But Orange County does, because they are basically the same chain of lakes.
Are there other outstanding Florida waterways that have
Not anywhere in this western Orange County, similar kind of environment. There's some on the east side of the county, there's some north of us, there's some, but not around. So we could look at those other jurisdictions that do have that, even though they're, remote from where we are, just to get an idea.
And maybe work with them, so we are
Absolutely.
really making sure, this is compare apples to apples, certainly. Not seeing waterways in Florida, probably look up a few populations. It might be.
Just on the memo that I have, just 2 additional points for you to know. Ms. Ramos earlier today sent me, there's another provision within the county code that allows for an exemption for lots platted prior to 1982 that have less than 150 feet of depth to the normal high water line to be exempt from the 50-foot. So what's interesting about that, though, under the current code for the town, as I say in my memo, that really doesn't matter. Because it's now, everybody's regulated by what your zoning district standard setback is for a swimming pool. Only for some, structures, primary structures still 50 feet, but swimming pools in the county are regulated by the zoning district. So one of the things I did look at, I don't have it in my memo, but I just want to present it right now, is when I looked at the zoning of the county properties on the other side of the lake from the town, what are those properties zoned? So basically, we have two, we have RCE, which is a 1 acre zonings, that's a 50-foot setback for pools. So the other zone around us is R1AA, that is actually a 30-foot setback for pools in the county. That's only a very small area adjacent to the town. So, by and large, around the town, it's 50 feet per town. No,
But while you're researching even the outstanding standing waters, which I think is appropriate because that's what we are. I'd like to know why they chose 50 foot, not 40 foot, not 30 foot, not whatever it is. So what is the purpose of it? Is it an aesthetic thing? Is it a safety thing? Is it a contamination? I mean, I don't get it. I just would like to know what the thought process was.
so I will tell you from my experience in other jurisdictions where I work, it is unique to everybody. In the city of Newport Richey, where I serve also as their town city planner, their standard is 40 feet. There's no real reason. Now, but now where it's somewhat, and this is an analysis I'm going to do as well, what does work well here in the town is with your 100-year floodplain. Because your 100-year floodplain right now, and I'll say 95% of the lots here in town, does not exceed beyond that 50-foot setback requirement, which is a protection of that 50-foot setback floodplain. So that could be part of why it is. So that would be some more analysis I can provide.
So is that because, let's say we have this 100-year storm, and then the water from the lake would come in and go into the pool and mix with the pool water?
Well, no, it's, under your floodplain management ordinance, it encourages people not to develop within the 100-year floodplain, and if they do, and if they're going to fill within the 100-year, which includes a pool, then they have to provide for a significant amount of additional stormwater compensation or flood compensation. So in that case, we not only have to capture that first inch of runoff, which is your standard here in the town, but now you also have to capture the volume for volume amount of floodplain that you're filling in with the activity. So consistent with the FEMA regulations and the DEP, it's to encourage people not to develop.
But a lot of these schools won't get into that floodplain area, just because, I mean, it's usually where the wall is, if you have one, seawall.
Right.
And that has nothing to do with if you, I mean, you know what I'm saying? That's nowhere within.
So one of the things that we will do, that we'll map the 100-year flood, and we'll put the 50-foot line across there just to see whether it may or may not be an interface with that, just to get that.
Well, I think if we work our way through all of that, that's gonna be helpful, and at least then we'll be able to, explain why, what, and where we chose, and council can have the opportunity, maybe, with that situation. I don't know, let's see, let's get all the information. Do our best to make a decision that balances, quality of life for homeowners, and quality and protection of the lake as well, so. Some good recommendations.
Thank you.
Appreciate your research on that and great as well.
Do we know an answer about the pavilion?
Can you continue, because otherwise we can
That's
go
okay.
back to listening.
Oh, yeah, I figured it was so long. About the pavilion, do we know if they have an arborist or that stuff?
We require that they have to do a tree survey prior to any construction. Again, this comes back at 45 and 100%. So we will include the tree board to make sure that we protect or they maintain what they can with the construction of the new pavilion.
So at 45, we'll have the tree survey, right? And it's correctly.
Yeah, you probably have it before then.
Okay.
And do we have a timeline for 45? Or like, I don't know, time, is there a timeline for this one?
No, we just actually approved the guide tonight, so.
So you'll see it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So back to liaison assignments. Council, I did my best here as always, so. We'll start with. A little new and a little older folks who have, this assignments to certain committees and. If we talk about it, it doesn't feel right, we'll go back to the drawing board, so. Some areas. Less interest in others, so. Start with. Other chain of basis advisory committee. That. Development review board, councilperson. Downtown business doesn't really. Elder affairs committee. Truck farmers market, councilperson, David gave that a high score. Historical preservation board. Councilperson. Is that okay? All right, you put an X there, man, that can be 1 or 5. Or don't, I just don't. I don't know. All right. Let's see, we're good at the end here. Holiday social committee, I also gave councilperson. Long range planning, councilperson Rose. Plan alternate, councilperson Gavin. Parks and recreation. School advisory. Tree board, councilperson Martin. Ways committee, councilperson. Chamber alternate. Got it. Where's regular elections? So let's see what I've done. Councilperson Rose really wants to do budget and finance, so she gave that a 1. And you've done that in the past a lot. You've also been administrative. Usually after people are the administrative. It's figured it out. No common denominator.
Actually, I don't think.
You have done, you also, budget. Would you be interested in administration? Okay. All right, so that will allow councilperson budget finance, councilperson Williams. Police, councilperson. So, don't we already have parks?
I think we were thinking about just lumping public works, which includes streets and roads, projects, and parks into just one liaison, since we have the projects.
So for public works, I was gonna go with the councilperson David. And then Parks and Rec. I didn't put anyone for Parks and Rec. I guess I misunderstood that. That's so for Parks and Rec, I have councilperson David did put an X there.
I think you gave, Councilmember David, Parks and Rec earlier.
Yeah, so that should be the same person, right?
Yes.
Okay, let's do that.
We just eliminate the second redundancy because I think that would fall underneath the public works projects meeting notes, and then Councilmember David can give us the recommendations from PNR to our internal meetings. Okay, we can do those.
Is that all right for everyone? Something special. No,
I mean,
so here's what I would say, perhaps I gave someone too much.
yeah, maybe I should take the admin because
They would like,
William says, one, 2, 3.
so what was that? So you're saying. And budget. Yes. Everybody's good. If you're not, let me know next week. That's good people, the right places, good experience, and also something new. We'll make a better matrix.
Yes.
And we will put that out there.
I have police.
Yeah, martini,
Thank you for making that.
PD martini.
Oh, I got sorry. So we have liaison assignments taken care of. In addition to council, thank you for your staff. Also, I want to thank everyone, council, staff, everybody who attended, all the residents, on the ribbon cutting ceremony of the new facilities for kind of feel that really mattered. All positive feedback on the building itself, and the decisions that were made, getting all of that public input. Took some time, and everyone was speak for itself. And say how proud I am of everybody. Super thanks to so with that, I'm just going to talk about the Easter parade, so I won't see what's not. We will move to an additional council member. Yeah,
Yeah, so it's been busy. Yeah. We had others last week. Cooked up 40 pounds of rib, 8 pounds of chicken, thanks to Eddie Foot and Seminole. And out there. Well attended. We ran a good ball. But no, it was right amounts, next, we've got the holiday hoopla. It's already ramping up for party in December. The first week is going to be May 11th at 5:30. In this week, going to be full of they're all pretty excited. Good stuff. And then finally, HP did the last week also. They set a timeline to audit the Cal Palmer building. I use that spreadsheet to look at 5 months ago. As kind of the basis for doing the old schoolhouse and everything else. We should see what Cal Palmer needs. We also asked for bylaws to be amended. We've got a little bit of a problem with our own report and a lot, but we discuss it and as to admin to wrap it up.
This When did I have to do anything to the audit?
I don't think so. I was gonna get with you, we should see what that does. It's gonna be the next 60 days, so it's not a big deal.
Tree board, there, we've got a new tree survey program that's being done by a company called Rehill, and, that's would be that number.
Whenever you would like me to. So we're really excited. We did call an emergency meeting of the tree board to approve this because this is a form of technology that they're using in Europe and the Philippines. So what they've done is taken LiDAR, which was traditionally used for locating underground utilities, and they have turned that into a system that can now get 360-degree images of the trees. And so they were in town all last week capturing that data. Now they're uploading that data to their system, and it's going to be creating these 3D models of all of our street trees and our trees in our parks. So we're very, very excited about that. Traditionally, for a tree assessment, you pay anywhere between $4 and $5 per tree, and that would be just basically a database spreadsheet of trees and their sizes and all that kind of stuff. This is being done for $1 per tree, and we get the type of tree, the size of the tree, information about the health of the tree as well. It helps us to determine where we may need to have line of sight issues taken care of, where we don't have enough clearance in the roadways that we're required to have. So it can show us all of this in a system. And so we're very, very, very excited that they reached out and wanted to partner with us first in North America with this. So it was too good to pass up.
Yeah, it's an interesting program. It's like Google Earth for trees. Yeah. And it'll capture the town's trees, but also those on private property, except if there's a fence in the way.
Right.
And it doesn't work. You know, we have 10,000 trees.
Oh, 10,000.
Yes. If we go over, we're gonna cut those down, but.
So like as you're going down your main, some trees I assume are town property.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, right-of-way trees or street trees or right-of-way trees, yes.
We also got the iNaturalist Challenge. City Nature Challenge will happen between April 29th and May 2nd. That's for people to go onto the iNaturalist app. It's the same thing we did last year. I'm not really sure how well received it was, but second time is a charm. And so April 29th and May 2nd, take photos of nature between these these dates and upload to the iNaturalist site. Give enough so we can some page or some.
Yeah, you need 500 verified photos, and you don't have to be somebody that understands, what type of species the plant is. You just take a picture of it, and it kind of tells you what that species is. The same thing with, if you see a snake, you see an insect, it'll go through its repository and it'll tell you exactly what type of species that is. And it also gives the people that are behind this information on what's starting to be invasive in different locations and what is indigenous to those locations too. So believe me, I don't know one tree from the other sometimes, so all I do is use the camera, take a picture of it, and it'll tell me what the species is. Same thing when I see like a caterpillar, it'll tell me what type of caterpillar it is, or if it's poisonous or not. But yeah, you see people posting with them NextDoor, like what type of snake is this, or anything like that. If you have the iNaturalist, you just take a picture of it and boom, you get good information.
Upload the LiDAR data.
So it's an application.
Yes, the iNaturalist app, and the information on how to download the app is on the flyer that we posted, but we'll make sure you guys all.
Pretty easy.
Council, any other additional report outs? Seeing none, we'll move to staff report. Robert, you want to start?
Yeah, thank you. Don't mean to do a buzzkill, I'm not trying to delay, so the kids are asleep when you're home, but busy month. I'm still working on the sustainability plan. Part of that green hill is part of the sustainability plan. That's something I was directed to do by LRP. We will have Orange County do a third-party peer review of that as well, to make sure that what we're implementing is something that we can, sustain and make sense for the town. Wherever we are, not where we're not. Meaning that, there's some things that we can incorporate, there's some things that we can't, and are mostly utilized in more urban cities. But we'll try to make our plan something that not only can we adhere to, but also incorporate, make sure that we're following it, and be an example for other towns in our community. So I'll bring that to long-range planning in May. Today I submitted about $10,700,000 to the federal appropriations committee through our Congressman Demick's office. That included the water master plan implementing the entire north, central, and south, which came up to about $10.3 million. And then the additional request right now is for $300,000 for the wastewater report. So we just do initial overview report, and it's about $300,000. In addition to that, I'm working with Commissioner Wilson's office in District 1 to see if we can leverage some of their monies to pay for that $350,000. So either the feds can pay for it, hopefully Orange County will help us pay for it through their American Recovery Act dollars. So we're trying to see where we can get the most bang for our buck. And again, so once we have that study, then we can go and ask for additional appropriations and have that story to Tallahassee or to DC. If and when we want to hire lobbyists, but we need that story first to show them exactly what we need and why we need it. Once the sales tax was discussed on April 5th, you can watch the video to see where various commissioners lie on that. It's going to be brought back to the Board of County Commissioners on April 26th. That'll be the defining moment of whether it's the ballot in November or not. Right now, it just seems to be a wavering opinion between all the commissioners. So I don't see real consistency of the board itself. So it could die at that April 26th meeting, or it can be pushed off to the ballot in November.
Mayor Nelson wanted to have another meeting as well to discuss it. And I don't know the advantage of that at this juncture, but maybe the only thing we could find out is who was supporting it from a municipal perspective. But I was like, unless there's something new, I'm all in support of us being on the same page, but unless there's something new. Or a tweak. I don't know if we,
No, we have not been notified of any tweets, either whether we're talking about gas tax relief or some more other incentive that's out there. I haven't heard anything. I don't think Commissioner Wilson has either. But yeah, I don't see anything new. I believe every municipality did send a letter of support of it going to the ballot. But again, we still need to see, one of the views to see if they do adopt it, what the ballot language is going to include. But at the meeting on the 5th, it didn't even seem like the commission wanted it even on the ballot. So I think you definitely have 3 against and 3 on the fence, so we'll see what happens at the next meeting. Fullerton Lakes, with the issue of Rhode Island, Beaver Island, that again went to the Board of County Commission on the 5th. It was scheduled to be heard that morning at 9 a.m., then got pushed to 2 p.m. and then heard till I think about 5:30 p.m. And there were several folks that spoke out against the ordinance early on, and I don't believe any of them were actually town residents or have to deal with that issue on a day-to-day basis. And the comment that was made at that meeting was that, well, all we heard was people that were against it. We didn't really hear people that were for it. But that kind of negates all our work that's been done over the last 18 months to get this ordinance in place to this point. From all the stakeholder meetings, the Bullishian advisory committee meetings, and the public meetings that have been held throughout the entire process. Just because they didn't show up that day doesn't mean that they didn't have a voice getting up to that point. So without a motion, without any type of consensus or consent from the board, it just died. It's pretty much in limbo at this point. And it hasn't been scheduled for another hearing date, which is confusing because typically you need some sort of a motion to move or to kill something, and it just went away. So I think Commissioner Wilson's looking to get possibly resolutions or letters of support from those municipalities that are directly impacted, i.e. the town of Windermere, to try to get this back onto an agenda for the DOCC to discuss. Now, a lot of the concerns that are raised by the voters that are out there were the establishment of the swimming area and how currently they're not able to, or OCSO and FFC can't enforce the rules and regulations. This kind of creates a demarcation line where you can see what's going on and it's easier for them to enforce what's already out there. But they didn't want to set up a level of expectation that if you do pass this ordinance, it'll probably go away. It's not. Maybe they're going to continue at a less extreme level, or they're going to find another location, but there's still going to be an issue. And they were talking about, oh, well, if my kids get off the boat and they try to swim, they're going to be in 20 foot of water. Well, the area that they've designated up to that point is between 3 and 6 feet of water. So they'll still be up to pretty much more between, I think, 25 and 40 feet up to that shoreline, even though they're not supposed to be trespassing on that property anyway. So again, it's in limbo at this point. So if the council consents to it, we can go ahead and get a letter up together and ask that the county put this on an agenda for it to actually discuss and vote on.
Absolutely, let's do that. Our best to get that move. And I think that they're looking at it because those folks who are actually, some of them causing the issue, they're thinking we don't lose this, dangerous things that happen, but there's no obligation for town to, or for the state for that matter, to provide a place for everyone to anchor the boat.
I think also, other thing that makes advisory board, everybody was under the assumption this was gonna be. And so there was no big call to come out and speak. We were actually waiting to hear should we come or not.
Well, the challenge, county commission or something like this, and they move their agenda. It's not like we all show up at 9 o'clock.
Right.
They don't even talk about it until 5. Right. It's very difficult for the strongest advocates to sit there all day. So, yeah, it's pretty frustrating. I think we should do whatever we can to move that back onto the agenda.
One other thing, and I'm talking to Robert, Commissioner, but, years and years, this has been going on forever. So years and years ago, there was a discussion about this, and it became very, very obvious that, it's Florida Fish and Wildlife that's supposed to be patrolling and the rules, the laws, all of that's down, but they don't have the personnel. They have like less than a dozen people to cover, not just the Butler Chain of Lakes, but all these other places. And they just flat out said, we can't do this. So, and I know the chief's helping with these guys and stuff, but it's, if the current rules could be enforced, this wouldn't be the issue it is. So I just want everybody to understand, it's not like they're allowed to do this. It's just nobody has the strength and resources to control.
Very challenging.
Whether we need a motion or just by common consent of the council or to get this on to the DOCC agenda.
I think just by consensus.
All right, and then we have 2 Oakdale, Healthy traffic / speeding meetings. The first one's gonna be tomorrow night, 6 p.m. And the second one's going to be on April 26th at 6 p.m. That's gonna take place as the mid-year report. That mid-year report will be provided to you in May. And the reason for the delay in the mid-year report is because I think, the situation with the finance director. And then we also have our finance clerk out as well, so I'm not able to get the numbers in time to provide those to you. By now, I just have in the February numbers, so I'll have the, March numbers that give me the good 6-month window into what we're gonna be looking at, by the end of the year, and that kind of coincides with assessments, so on and so forth, so we'll be doing that, but in lieu of that, we're gonna be doing a secondary Oakdale, workshop to get, again, more public output or input, because the first one that we're doing has pretty much, we notified all the residents along Oakdale, but we didn't notify everybody within 500 feet. The second one is notified everybody within 500 feet. Thank you for Public Works for, going out, putting out some letters tomorrow for everybody, door knockers within that 500 feet. So we'll have those two workshops. The personal rules and regulations, we're working with the chief, DC, and the board from Gary Robertson, that'll be in the agenda as well. We're gonna try to do that on a yearly basis, not only for accreditation purposes, but to get a refresher of what your rules and regulations are, and make sure that you're up to date as far as the labor laws. On April 4th, we had a board committee workshop, and that's gonna be an annual thing. Not only do we get to teach them about the sunshine laws and ethical laws, but I'll also get them together, to talk about what projects they're working on and what they can help each other do as far as, some of the projects they're working on, or make sure that they're just aware of what they're doing, so nobody's duplicating services or trying to step on each other's toes. So we'll do that on an annual basis. On April 5th, we had the pedestrian multimodal bridge workshop. It was very well received. So we'll be working with Finley Horn Associates to get us to the 90% plans to bring it back to you, because we want to get that thing moving, since we have the 760,000 from DOT. And the backlog with the delaying order is about 6 months. So if we were to order today, we wouldn't get it till probably October, November. So the sooner we get that accelerated, the better. DRB on the 19th will be looking over the proposed setback for accessory structure, for actually structure, not accessory structure, for pools. And then she's to talk about Saturday's teacher parade. That's all I have. So not busy at all.
Yeah,
So the April projects meeting notes will be out tomorrow.
What else do you want?
Oh, I feel terrible. I spend money.
So what I have for you this evening is, when I first came on board, we had a lot of people asking us about the roundabout here at Main and 6th. There's that big dip in the brick there, and also the one at Main and 4th in front of the church. So we're gonna be having that repaired. We got 3 quotes. At the project meeting, Councilman David asked us if we could do the repairs on the weekend or at night. So I'm working with the company to do it on the weekend. They did agree to that for no additional cost. So I'll get back to you on when that's happening, but I hope it's not gonna be this weekend, which they tried to do to me, and I said, no, now we have the Easter parade, so we're hoping for the next weekend, but I'll get back to all of you with what's gonna happen on that.
There's another one coming to light here well, in Boundary.
Yes,
I don't know if you can expand that.
I'll ask them.
As long as it stays within his approval threshold, yes. Otherwise, we'll be bringing it to you.
What are they doing?
So what they have to do is, John's not here, he explains it the best, but what he has explained is that they put a paver dirt underneath those brick roads. And so what's happening is when you get water and that water is sitting there, it's creating like a pump action. Yes, which is destroying that base and pushing those bricks out and actually affecting some of the concrete curbing as well. So what we have to do, and what we found out from one of our engineering consultants, is that the city of Orlando is using crushed gravel as a base. So they're going to be utilizing a different base for that, that won't create that pumping action. But that's something that we need to fix, because that is a liability issue with how deep those are. Yeah, let's hope. One of the other things that I've been working on that we're almost finished with is renewing the Tree City USA designation application, so we're working on that. We're renewing permits for the town lakes with DEP. Solitude and our lakes management consultant is working on that. I worked with the engineers to pull together a comprehensive list of stormwater structures, and Horizon Land Management has done the work of cleaning out the structures. I've had several residents thank me for getting that underway. They're happy to see those being cleaned. We had a second successful lakes cleanup on March 27th. I'm working with Middlesex Paving and with the sidewalk contractor to start work on those projects during the summer. I want to try to do it as soon as the kids are out in May, so we can get that done this year. What's happening with the sidewalks is we're doing the replacement of sidewalks first that need to be replaced, that have been cracked and are not able to have the ADA treatment done to them. You want to do that first because you don't want to pay the ADA contractor to come in and shave sidewalks we need to replace. So once that's done, I will see what money we have left and what can be spared to have the ADA contractor come through and probably start on Park with that. We also were out at Park working on some slick sidewalks there. The second area that I was asked about was Windermere Road relative to sidewalks. That is actually Orange County. So I contacted Orange County, and their maintenance division actually called me back right away, and they're supposed to be going out and working on that. We think the issue over there is you get some lovely grass in the right of way here that creates what I call a carpet and creates something on either side of the sidewalk, traps the water. In our Florida heat, things start to grow on the sidewalk when that water stays there and can't clear. So they think I'm right, that might be the situation, so we'll be out there trying to work on that. Not just clean them, but work on correcting the situation. So we have that happening. Yeah. We also found a new cold patch material that's holding up much better. And we actually get it at a better price than just going to Home Depot and picking up those bags. So my team's been pretty happy. They do quite a lot of going out and repatching on 2nd and 6th, those potholes, but the new material's holding up better, so they're happy with that. We have also removed some handicap signage over the Little League parking area off of Windermere Road. This is now a town piece of property, and I'm working on getting a quote from Middlesex to pave that and create 2 handicap spots there that would be appropriate. So that's all I'm going to give you for this evening. Thank you.
So the Little League area, we're gonna take that.
The intent is just to pave, you can't have handicap parking without having pavement.
Right.
So that's the intent. It's kind of like what you saw outside the 1887 schoolhouse, was to have that concrete area. But we get the cost as far as just those 2 spots. I know that the Little League wants 2 additional spots, but they want 4, which pretty much takes up the entire area over there. But we can get a good feel of what the price is gonna be. And if we just keep part of gravel and then have those 2 spots, kind of like we have back here on the forest. But depending on the cost, we'll bring it back to you. But if we're going to enforce the handicap parking, we need it to meet ADA standards. And they can't just put a chain on and stuff like that.
I guess I didn't realize that was our responsibility.
It is now that we took over that. I know that they had an agreement with Mr. Ward, and then Mr. Ward's the one that actually put that chain up.
Right.
But now that we've acquired it and want to reduce any risk management that's out there as far as liability issues, if somebody were to get hurt and the handicap spot that doesn't meet the standards, we just want to make sure that we cure that. I'm not expecting it to be too cost prohibitive.
It's true. So I was just curious, like, I wasn't sure. And Tony, great work on all with everything that's been going on. The roads are looking good. I knew some of us create our own challenges with the sprinklers working on that. But yeah, I appreciate it. You guys.
Thank you.
Question on the project meeting, were you able to bit sucks about doing the patching repairs that we contracted for on nights and weekends as well.
That I'm working with them on still. I'm wanting to find out when they can do it and then we'll negotiate that piece. The issue that I have is when you piggyback, you cannot exceed 450,000. So we're at 407, 408, I think. So I've got very little wiggle room there to increase costs on that project. So I will find out what he will charge us to do night work. It's always, they don't usually do that, as you know, for free.
And that's the price. It's,
The 2019 pricing so long ago. I'm shocked.
Council Ramos.
Just from microphone, sorry.
Yeah.
Just wanted to remind you that on April 20th at office, we have a legislative wrap up at 5 o'clock. If any of you are interested in coming and you would like to meet our SCP from you, you can let Robert know, you can let me know. It's a really good event. All of our local lobbyists see it, and it's quite interesting and entertaining. And also I just want to thank all of you for sending our representation of the town. In 2007, Tom Wills, who you all know, was representing the town with Rick Mitchell on some boat dock issues. And you had, we were serving a special counsel, and the town decided to go out for RFP at that time. And Tom happened to be seen during the time that they were supposed to come in with signs. And Rick had some kind of family emergency come up, so I got a phone call, and I was an associate at the time, and I was very pregnant. So I came and I showed up, and I stood in front of the council and said, you know, we'd be very interested in doing your work, and things started, and everybody's looking at me like, I'm really pregnant at the time. So, yeah. But anyway, thank you very, very much. We really enjoyed doing the work for the town and look forward to a long relationship.
Thank you. Certainly enjoy having you guys. More than that, we like the work you do, the way you do it.
Chief of that there. You may have recognized last week at shift change, so you see a couple officers not used to the day shift and a couple night shift guys not used to night shift. Give them a few weeks to get acclimated to that. We're also doing a office awareness month, is this month, so we're all wearing our pins. I think we have some extra, if you guys are interested in participating. And that with us along. Last month I did a presentation on volunteerism for the Central Florida Women's League. And this morning actually was at the Women's Community College, the Criminal Justice Leadership Academy, actually doing some leadership through diversity initiatives that we do that. I sent a package up there for you guys on the Sea Cadets. I want to bring this up kind of briefly, I had a chance to talk about it. I've been involved with their advisory board for some time. The Sea Cadets is a group of youth from 10 years old to 18 years old. I know a lot of these kids, they're amazing kids. They broke off on Claremont Sea Cadets, and they want to start one in West Orange County almost 3 years ago. I helped them start. They always wanted to come to Windermere. We didn't have facilities or locations, so they're in a ploy right now. But I had a discussion with them the other day, and they're very much ready and prepared and would like to join partnerships with the Town of Windermere and Windermere Police Department. We can do this now that we have our new facility. If you look through the brochure, it's just amazing stuff these kids do. Medical, special operations, field operations. We have a lot of residents who are former military, like Mr. Davitt as well, and many others that I never want to participate in this program. They are 501c3. They will have all legal requirements done up. We'll make sure we run that through our attorneys as well. Pretty much all that's going to require us is location. They can use our community room once a month. We've already used the Sea Cadets for the foundation and events and things of that nature. And they're very excited to partner with the Town of Windermere. If you guys think that's not a problem. I think it'd be a great partnership. It'd also be a great opportunity for some of our kids in this area. I will tell you, I've been working with them for years. They are some of the best kids that I've ever met. Our employee chapter within the first 2 years actually had 2 Sea Cadets chosen out of 16 that are chosen nationwide to participate in programs outside the United States. One was in Okinawa, and the other one can't quite remember where it's at. So we got just amazing kids that go on to some great military careers that could be helpful for us. So you'll take a look at that. I will send some more information out as we go and just kind of let you know if we got any problems or concerns. And I've already talked to Robert about it. I don't think he has any. And I think, again, it would be a great partnership.
So our obligation is in space.
Our obligations to space, I would take probably 2 or 3 of the adults, mostly retired military anyway, and they would become volunteers for the Windermere Police Department. So they would have access, limited access to different places. I would make sure that our officers are involved and engaged. I'll stay as an advisory board member. We're probably looking for some other advisory board members as well. I know a couple weeks ago, one of our officers and our officer that we had to take them out shooting at the range. So a lot of the stuff they do is off-site. They do some amazing training, to be honest with you. I would really love some of our Windermere resident kids to get involved in these programs. Really good stuff. A couple of upcoming events I just want to make you aware of. April 23rd coming up is our Navy Walk. We have a small team in that. A lot of our reserves and volunteers and our crisis management team does that every year. They raise some money to do it. Tallahassee Memorial, Mayor, we were talking about this morning, is the 24th and 25th, coming up right after that. The German family will not be there this year, so we just have a very small contingent of honor guard that's going to be going up to that. May 3rd, if you mark that down, is the Orange County Memorial. I would love it. Mayor and our elected officials can participate in that. There will be a parade this year, and that will post-COVID. We'll get back to a parade at 7 p.m. I'll give you more information. So that is the main one that if you're available, I'd love for you to be able to attend. If you haven't done a county memorial, it's a pretty nice event if you've been down at the courthouse. May 19th is a Seminole County Memorial. I do participate in that. If you want to participate, you're welcome to. And that is because the German family are from Sanford. Robbie German went to that family there. So typically I'm at that one every year as well. So if you're available for that, please let me know. June 25th. Is the Windermere Police Department Foundation. That's the one we normally do. That is in March every year. We're going to do it in March. This year we're going to have kind of a summer theme. I forgot what it was. Tom, you came up with it.
Summer bash.
So the foundation will be 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. right here in our town hall center. We've got the bounce house, so we got everything ready for that. Same thing we do every year, but as opposed to being the Irish theme, it's going to be a summer bash. So if you kind of mark that down. And I think the last thing that we had, this is kind of pushing way out, but September 10th of this year, the Windermere Police Department Foundation will be sponsoring once again the bumps across America. So we will be building like 40 bump beds out front, like we did a couple of years ago. So we'll be looking to raise some money for the Windermere Police Department Foundation for that. That's all I got. You're gonna bring up the.
Yeah, you teach up for the Easter parade. Mayor and I did, we were right there. Swinging this.
Right there. Yeah, I forgot these 2 checks right here. This weekend is our Easter parade. It's gonna start at 10 a.m. You guys want, any council want to participate, please show that 9:30. We're gonna start in front of the police department. And we can jump aboard. We've got plenty of vehicles and trucks and things of that nature. And we'll have an escort. It usually takes about 2 hours to get to the town. The route is posted on our website, so you can take a look at the route and you can kind of estimate which quadrant of the town that you're in. You know, about a 30-minute increment, so you have to see outside. It's a pretty fun event. We usually have a lot of kids that are out. At least the bunny will be there, and we'll throw out some mix. Try not to get any of the kids this year. And we usually have a good time for that. So, yeah, I think last year we had. Last time we made a little error in the route of the show. We got the same people this year. So we made sure we get this out. And Robert already mentioned we have to have time for the show tomorrow night and the next one as well. So let me look through my list. Oh, I was asking Dorothy the other day, so the 100th year anniversary of our town is coming up, not far away. Just a few years away, so I don't know what kind of like pre-planning we started doing, what we've been doing on that. I think that could be a great event for the entire town. So maybe that's another committee, maybe another committee liaison position. That's it.
What is that thing?
February 2025.
2025. Be here before you know it.
official.
That's right.
Thank you very much. Council, anything else for the good of the order? Seeing nothing, we are adjourned at 7:14. Thank you, everyone.